Welcome to QWERTY Writing Life podcast, where we have candid chats about our creative lives. This is May.
And I'm Joy.
For more information about our podcast, monthly newsletter, or author resource series, visit us at QWERTYWritingLife.com. That's QWERTY, spelled QWERTY.
It's the first 6 letters on your keyboard.
So, are you ready? Grab your tea.
Or your coffee, and let's chat.
Hello, everyone. It's another week.
Hello and welcome.
Tonight, we're going to continue our series on creative hacks, and we're going to focus on efficiency for craft. But before we do that, let's talk about our creative weeks. Joy, what did you do?
Well, I am currently finishing the second round of edits on Every Good Thing while it is out in the wild with some beta readers. So we're getting close, people. So excited.
Anytime you can see tangible progress, it's always fun. And it's so exciting.
Yes, it so is. Oh, yes. So what about you? Tell us about your creative week.
I had a couple of things going on. One of them happened right before we pushed record on this podcast episode. But one of the things that I have been doing this week has been being a guest author on a summer reading exchange program, which was hosted by Joy E. Rancatore herself. Ta-da! It's been a lot of fun getting to interact with your readers and the people who follow you for these summer challenges. It's kind of a bit of a tradition, hasn't it? Is this your third year?
Yeah, it's my 4th year, actually.
4th year.
I know. I was surprised by that, too. At the beginning of the summer, I was trying to add it up. I was like, oh my goodness. It's been a while.
And it's a competition, folks. So they get competitive in it. And it's a lot of fun to be kind of whooshed up in the middle of all of that with those social media posts and the questions and answering the questions and reading other people's answers and commenting on that and getting to know people that I've never known before. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun doing that. And then the super, super fun, and while I have this goofy smile on my face, is because Joy and I were brainstorming on an idea that my husband and I came up with last night. We ate sushi last night. We were sitting there, and I was like, Britt, we need to have a southern sushi place in my books, and all of the roles need to be named something extremely southern. And so we started coming up with names and things. So I was telling Joy about that, and so I was like, I've got to come up with a good name for the restaurant though, because I couldn't do that last night. I couldn't do it. And so we were batting names back and forth and making each other laugh and having a good old time with that. I think we might have maybe come up with a name, but I'm going to sleep on it for a little bit. Yeah, I love brainstorming is one of my favorite things. It's one of my favorite things. It's where all the ideas, you get to just lay them out on the table and kind of sift through them and see where the treasures are. And I love that.
Yes. Brainstorming is the best, and especially when you're coming up with names and on something fun like this, it's just such a blast. And it's always better to brainstorm with a friend. It just is.
Yes. Somebody who already kind of knows your sense of humor, because otherwise it might not be so much fun. But,
that's true.
But yeah, we got to come up with a few things, Googled a little bit of Japanese translations, and we're surprised on a couple of things. So yeah. When the books come out and everything, I'll have to let you guys know what we went with. But either way, it was a whole lot of fun. Thank you for that, Joy.
Oh, you are welcome. Thank you for sharing it with me because, oh my goodness, of course now I want sushi, which, really stings because now I can't get sushi.
Well, it is a little late here, so we're running at about 10:30 at night. So we're either delusional or really hungry. I don't know which one yet. But
sometimes it's hard to tell.
Yeah, or both. We could be both.
True.
So let's dive right into our topic. And that is, again, the creative hacks and efficiency for craft. Writers are kind of where we're focusing here because that's what we are. But you can also kind of take the ideas that we talk about for writing as creative medium and twist and turn and look at it from different perspectives, evaluate it, and see how it can fit into your medium. Our first creative hack for craft is going to be look at critique partners. So we did an episode, I think it was like a 3 or 4 part episode. 5? It might have been 5.
No, it was 6.
6?
It was 6.
There was 6 parts.
Yeah.
We had so much to say about it.
And we followed the chapter breakdowns in our book, I believe.
That's right. That's right. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah. I feel a little embarrassed that I didn't remember, but 'tis life. So
it's that whole 10:30 at night thing again.
It could very well be. But so we did it. We changed our book about finding and keeping your writing critique partner, and we altered those principles to tailor toward creative critique partners. And so no matter your medium, this could very well be an option for you. And some of the things that we found out is, first of all, the techniques that we have in our book are evergreen. Second of all, they can be tailored to creative mediums other than writing. And so we're going to share a few of those ideas with you here, and also link to the series in the show notes. So one of the things that we think critique partners can help you with is to learn faster. So you're learning something new all the time, and your partner is learning something new all the time. And the cool thing about being a creative critique partner is that you have conversations about these new things that you're learning. And so you're able to share and so deepen the knowledge that you have already gotten on the new thing that you're learning. You're able to share that with your critique partner so they can have that level of knowledge that you have. And then also they can share with you what they are learning, and then they deepen their level of knowledge based off of what the new things that they're learning. And you get to an idea of whether you want to research that deeper, try it out, do some practice, or maybe you guys want to practice together and see if this is something that fits both of you. It's really interesting how that happens, because that level of discovery is sometimes hard, and it takes us a little bit long, a long time to do if we have to do the research initially. But you have a partner there who's already done the research on the thing that they're learning, and then you've done the research on the thing that you're learning, and you're just sharing that information. It's pretty great. Yeah. Also, you have different experiences too. So it's not just the new things that you're discovering that you haven't tried yet, but it can be things that you have already learned in life, or have experienced vicariously through someone else, that you can share that lesson with your critique partner as well, and vice versa. So there's so many things that you're learning with the critique partner, and so you end up doing more learning faster, and we love that.
Yep. And it's definitely played out that way for us. I mean, I was sitting here and I was thinking of time after time where this has happened with us, where, one of us has been researching something and then we're able to share it with the other, Mm-hmm. Also, with your strengths, each partner in whether it's writers or another medium, each partner is going to have certain strengths that the other one may not have, or may not be as good at. And so, you can improve based on learning and observing what your partner's doing and how good they're doing that certain thing. So, yes, all about the critique partners.
Yes. And one of the things that Joy and I suggest in the book is to, when you're choosing a critique partner, to look at their strengths and their weaknesses and see how they compare to yours. Because if you have the same strengths and the same weaknesses, then you just need to be aware of it before you partner up, so that you know where you both need to learn. Or if you choose somebody who has different strengths than you and maybe can build you up where you're weak, then that also could be a really good partnership if all the other stars align, along with the number of personalities and the level of attention to literary detail or other creative medium detail, and like where they want to go with their career. There's a whole lot of things that you really need to take into consideration whenever you are choosing your critique partner, but your strengths and weaknesses is definitely one of them.
Yeah, definitely. So another creative hack for you guys as far as efficiency for craft. So the thing with your craft, whatever that is, you can constantly be learning, right? We always have something new to learn about about whatever it is that we do. And the beauty is we live in an age where we have technology, and YouTube University has pretty much anything that you might want to learn, right? And it's all at your fingertips, literally. The thing to remember with this is, because we're talking about this as a hack, so this is something that can help you improve without expending way more time, right? We're wanting to kind of consolidate this so that we're not, just learning forever and ever in this endless cycle. We're doing it on purpose. We're doing this, in a way that honors the time that we have to give to learning, so that we can continue to make books or paintings or whatever the case may be. So when it comes to this, when you go to YouTube, have a plan, know what it is that you're needing to learn more about, and really hone in on that. And also, throwing back to the critique partner thing, or just other friends that you might have in your medium, ask them if they've watched anything about whatever it is in particular you're looking for. For writing, it could be something like writing in present tense. Maybe that's something that you'd like to try, you've never done before, and you want to kind of get a crash course, or just kind of get a few pointers to go through. Perhaps you have an author friend who has done this before, and you can ask them, hey, what did you look at? And they could tell you. So things like that, to where making sure that you're making the most of your time when you go there, because it is so huge and you can get lost down the YouTube rabbit hole too. That's a thing as well.
Yes, absolutely. And so anything that's going to get you closer to your goal, if you don't have to start all the way at point zero, anything that's going to get you closer, even if it's just 1 or 2 steps closer to the water that you want to dive into, is the safer it is. So if they have a particular channel that they like to go get their DIY stuff, like you want to know that kind of thing. And also realize too that if that person doesn't work out for you, that's okay. Maybe they don't really resonate with you, but that doesn't mean that the person's advice is bad, or that person doesn't know what they're doing and that sort of thing. So just keep in mind that everybody's a little bit different. Everybody gets different teaching methods that resonate with them. So if it doesn't work out for you, that doesn't mean that you need to end that friendship immediately. Okay. And so one thing too is, like, that's a lot of online stuff. And nowadays, even critique partners can be done online. Joy and I are an online critique partner because she lives in one state and I live in another state. But we don't like it that way, but it is something that we have to do. I wish she lived like next door. We could have like coffee and tea all the time. Awesome. But wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yes.
And so another thing that you can do if you don't learn well in a digital area or surroundings, and then you can look for an apprenticeship. So whatever your creative medium is, find somebody who's doing it and doing it well, and someone you'd like to emulate or learn from, and then ask if you could follow them around for a little bit and see how it goes. Maybe they need somebody to, I don't know, pick up metal scraps after they finish a project or something. Even if you're doing the media work, kind of the gopher work, the grunt work, you're still in the studio with them. You're getting to watch their techniques. You're getting to watch them make decisions right there on the spot and create art. And that's going to be really, really useful to your career as you move forward.
Yeah, I agree. And, another way of thinking of this would be creative shadowing. I feel like those are pretty similar. I remember when I got to go and hang out with a photographer friend of mine who lives here, and she had been doing portrait photography for a while, and that was something that I had just started getting into. And so I went and I spent a day with her. She did a bunch of mini sessions, and I hung out with her. I handed her equipment, kind of did some things to help her out. But basically, I was just there to observe and to see how she handled all of her different clients, and how she posed them, and how she did all of her, everything that she did that day was just something that I enjoyed watching.
Yeah. So I kind of look at creative shadowing to be something that you might do earlier on as you're trying to decide what your creative medium is.
Mm.
You can creatively shadow quite a few different mediums and see if any of those feel good to you. Apprenticeship, I think you would probably have narrowed that creative medium down to something pretty specific, maybe one or two different things,
Mm.
and then you spend more than just a little bit of time with them. Like you would probably spend weeks or months or maybe even a year to being an apprentice to see if you can live this life,
Yeah.
and get really, really good at it. So for whenever we're talking to students who haven't made a career choice yet, whenever they're getting into college, we do talk about job shadowing. And I feel like that this is a little bit like that, where it's like a day in the life of, or, take your daughter to work day or something like that,
Right.
where it's for like a minimum amount of time. I feel like that's where creative shadowing comes in. But
That's true.
so very useful
It
in
is.
deciding what creative medium you want to pursue for sure.
And I forgot that when we were talking about this, it completely just slipped my mind. I had the opportunity, a senior in high school wanted to come and shadow me for a day. And she was looking at being either a librarian, um, a writer, or an editor. Those were kind of the things that she was thinking about. So she came and spent an afternoon with me, and I showed her, some different things about editing and talked to her about writing and all of the different avenues that authors have these days and stuff like that. And so I hope it was helpful for her. It was a lot of fun for me just to show somebody what I do and answer questions. So
Mhm. When I think too that it benefits you as somebody who is hosting someone else
mhm.
because you get to put words to things that might just be floating around in your head for a little bit.
Yeah,
And
it's true.
so I don't know, that's just a spit in the dark, I guess. So I think the next one too actually flows along these lines as well. So if I had to rank them as far as the amount of time that you spend with someone else, like creative shadowing would probably be the least amount of time. And then mentorship, I think, would be the second least amount of time. And then apprenticeship, it would be like the most amount of time that you would probably spend with someone. So mentorship is what I'm going to talk about next. And it does kind of fit a little bit differently. And I didn't order those very well. So I apologize, folks. But mentorship is where you might spend some of that hard and heavy time at the beginning getting to know each other and getting to know the work and walking through steps with that mentor or guide. But then eventually you're going to split off and do your own thing and start finding your own ways in that on that path. But it's somebody who you can go back to and ask questions and kind of sort things through, maybe brainstorm an idea or something. Somebody that you can go back to when needed, and that's the mentorship that we're talking about there. That is an excellent efficiency hack for craft.
Yeah.
And the reason is there's so much trial and error in creativity. So much. And this not to say that this is going to make your path super straight, but what it will do is some of those little branches off of the path, it will shut some of those doors down. So, and help you as far as um, seeing what really works in real time. Whereas if you are looking at a screen or if you're reading an article, all of these things have happened in the past. Everything that you're reading has been and it's happened in the past. So what you're doing is you're just making really good choices on how that you're learning, and you're learning in the most real time way as possible. And there's so much benefit to that.
Another hack here that we have for you guys is method swaps. Okay, so this is something where perhaps you are a writer and you have a little bit of artistic background and you're kind of thinking about wondering if you could potentially illustrate one of your children's books. And so maybe you find another artist who does something that you would like to learn, like in this case, in this example, illustrating a book, and have them teach you something. Maybe they are an illustrator and they would like to write a book. Okay, so you can kind of swap what you know with what they know, and both of you then have two things that you can do instead of just the one. Kind of a smaller example just within writing would be if you know a writer who is phenomenal at writing short stories, and perhaps you are really talented at writing, maybe you do dialogue really well or something like that. Okay, if you just spend a little time swapping the things that you do so well and helping the other person grow in that, then boom.
Mm-hmm.
It's similar to the critique partners, but I feel like this is something where, like in the case of the author illustrator thing, you could have two completely different mediums coming together.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea so much. And you can also think outside of mediums as well. So if you are an artist and you need business advice and you know somebody who's in the business world who needs a birthday gift for their wife or something, you can swap methods that way too, where you're giving them something that's kind of like a barter system, I guess a little bit more than a method swap, but you're giving them something that they need and they're also, paying you back in a way that is helpful to you as well. So there is that. And I really love the example that you had about like dialogue and that sort of thing, because it is interesting too. Like if you are an artist in a particular kind of, brushstroke or genre or something, and then you want to start to learn another type of painting or something, like you can definitely hook up with another artist who does that really well and who wants to learn more about what you do, for sure. I love method swaps. I love learning, so that's definitely kind of my jam as far as that goes.
I feel like with this, like it can even be like maybe you don't want to learn to actually do that other thing, but you want to learn about that. I think that that's invaluable as well. For example, I know a writer friend who wrote an article about, in fact, it may have been a series of articles about glass blowing. And so, she didn't learn to become a glass blower, but she spent a lot of time with this individual and learned the process, learned, all of this stuff that goes into glass blowing and just how intricate that is. And so her experience learning about that gave her this kind of random bit of knowledge that a lot of other writers may not have. So she could potentially have a character who is a glass blowing artist, and she would know a lot of things about how to write that character that she wouldn't have known otherwise.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I think about characteristics that a person would need to have in order to be a good glass blower, like patience and gentleness or something, that would be so interesting and such good story fodder for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So another efficiency hack for craft is dictation or voice memo. So no matter your creative medium, I think this can be for you. And if you've not thought about it, if you're like, oh, I'm not a writer, so dictation's not going to work, it could work for you. Because one of the things that I love about dictation is that it is a place, it's like a bowl where it can catch all of my idea vomit. And not all of my ideas are writing ideas because I'm a multimedia artist, right? So it's like I have other ideas about different ways that I can be creative and like a theme for photography or, illustrations or something like that. And you can grab all of that by recording a voice memo, or you can talk a little bit slower and say your punctuation for dictation. So that does take a little bit of time to get used to. But at the end of the day, it's already typed out for you. And then if you're using it on your phone, you can email that information to yourself and then put it into a document and just start refining that idea without having to start with a blank slate. And that's really beneficial, especially for writers and people who think on paper, like people who journal, things like that. So dictation and a voice memo. Another thing too is it just kind of gives you a little bit of a chance to multitask as well. So if you are somebody with a long commute, then you get to think about your art and you get to start making some good plans so that whenever you do get your hands on your creative tools, then they are ready to work and your brain is already in that right place. And that is so very useful and such a great thing that technology can give us these days.
That's great. I love that you shared that. And that's something that I would like to do more of, but I've already seen the benefits of it. So,
Mm-hmm. So at work, and I know this is not about work, but at work, I find that it's really helpful for email responses because it takes me more time sometimes to type it all out than it is to just say it. So it can be really helpful in other ways too.
Good to know. I love that. I'm going to try that. I think that would really help me because sometimes I do find myself spending a lot of time on emails when I could probably hack it and not spend as much time there. So, all right, we've got one more hack for you this week with efficiency for your craft. So, as writers, research is huge. And I know that this is the case with other creative mediums as well. When we research, though, it's very easy to get lost down that rabbit hole, the research rabbit hole. What I have found that has been most helpful for me is to have research docs. So I will just pull up a Word doc and I will start putting all of my links that I'm going to as I'm researching. But I don't just put the link. I try to write a little bit of a note of, okay, what did I find here? What was it about this link that was important enough for me to copy it and put it here? Keep that going and keep adding to it as you go, because when you go back for revisions, when you go back for editing, if you're going to a publisher and they ask you, did you research this, or whatever the case may be, you could say yes, and here's what I found, and this is the case, this is really accurate, this is accurate to this time period, or whatever the case may be that you are researching. If you keep that all in one place, it's going to save you time in the long run. The other good thing about keeping a doc like this is you also have to make sure that you are staying on track and focused. So I will usually have another document open. So when I'm going through and I'm researching something, I will find something super cool that I want to research, but it's not for the story that I'm working on. And so I will take that and I will put it in another document and I will make sure that I label it well, that I save it in a place where I'll be able to find it. But I don't let myself get down that rabbit hole because it happens, right? So those are kind of the things that I do with research. And then also another thing is reminders. I have documents for this. So what I'm talking about here are things like your world building, your character guides, your setting details, your timelines, all of these things. I have documents for every one of these things. So obviously, world building, you immediately think fantasy, which of course, any kind of fiction, you're going to have some form or fashion of world building. But for fantasy, it's the world that you're building. It's all of the different, you're probably going to have some rough sketch of a map, even if you aren't good at drawing. You're probably going to have some little rough idea of, okay, there are mountains here and there's an ocean or, things like that. You're going to know kind of the climate of the world that you're creating from scratch, things like that. With character guides, you want to make sure that you remember that you have put a mole on the right temple of your character, right? Like, these are the kinds of things that you've got to write down. When you realize, okay, he cut himself and he needs to have a scar on the left cheek, okay, make sure that you write that down, because you're gonna forget that you wrote left cheek, right? Okay. So just things like that. And then timelines are huge. So I just am very simple when it comes to this. Like, I do a simple table in a Word doc, and that's where I do my timelines. But for my fiction, timelines have been very important to keep up with. And here I am on the 4th book in the collection, and I have to know what my timelines were from the very first book that I wrote, because they're all interconnected. So if I hadn't kept up with this stuff, I would be having a lot harder time writing things now than I did before.
So I second all of that, except for I don't use a Word doc.
What do you use?
Excel. You can actually insert pictures into Excel too. So I'm a very visual person. And that's how I learn. That's how I like to plan things as well. So you can. I found different ways that you can like merge cells, and you can do all kinds of fun stuff in Excel. But also, what I love at the bottom is that you have all of these sheets. So you can do a research sheet, you can do a character sheet, you can do all of these different things on there, and keep all of that information all together in one file instead of 16 different files. And that's really helpful for me, because I have this problem with hoarding a whole bunch of different files on my desktop. Like, I'm just like, I'm not going to lose it if it's on my desktop, but then you can when there's 40 different files on your desktop. So I use Excel, and I like it. I've been learning more and more about Excel too with my new position, and it's one of those tools where it's like you pretty much have it on your computer. Not that everybody's computer comes with it, but some form of it. Because even if you have Google Drive, I think that you can do an Excel file in there, or some sort of file that's equivalent. But those sheets at the bottom have been really, really helpful with keeping a lot of different things in one place and in one file, and you can kind of just label it the project name instead of the different areas of the project. So that's been pretty cool. And then being able to input pictures and so on. So one way that you could use, instead of a writing example, but you could use, if you're a painter, for example, and you have this project and you know that you want to link this project to a particular point in time and in history or something, all of those links could go in there. You could even like copy and paste some of the images of the art of that time to see if you wanted to use that as inspiration for the way that you're going to memorialize this period of time in your art. What you're going to take as inspiration, what you're going to leave, how you're going to change it, and have those ideas already kind of written down along with your research. That could be a second sheet, your research could be one sheet, your inspiration and how you would like to do some trials and see. Some test palettes would be really cool to put in there, and then you could have that either as like PMS colors, or you could have just an example of colors that you're inputting into those cells. You can move those around a lot easier, and then, in my opinion, than you can in a Word doc. But again, what's going to work for me is not necessarily going to work for someone else. But I really do enjoy the flexibility that I have with Excel. Another software that a lot of people like is Scrivener, and I've tried. I really want to love Scrivener. I really, really do. But it's just a bit more complicated than I'd like for it to be right now. So, and I just got to get. I feel like if I get down to the nitty gritty of it and I'm able to find a good beginner course, that I'm going to be able to love it. But as it is right now, it's just a little bit hard to swap my mind, my old dog mind, and help it learn a new trick. But I did learn a little bit more about Excel, so maybe I'm starting to become a little bit more pliable with other software systems. So Excel is the way to go. Word document is great. If that's what you got, then use what you got. Nobody's poo-pooing on Word, but there might be something else that kind of fits your personality a little bit better if you wanted to try some new things. I always thought Excel was for numbers, and it's not just for numbers.
Well, see, and I feel like my critique partner has something to teach me here, because I like the idea of Excel, but every time I open it up, it like totally and completely just sends me going, rah, and I get scared and run away. So you can teach me what you've learned about it, and I can help you with Scrivener, because while I have not used it a lot, I really love it. And I plan to switch to using it when I go to my fantasy series. So since I had already kind of started everything the way that I had with, my first books, I just decided not to try to switch midstream. I felt like that would confuse me. So I do plan on switching to that, though, when I get to my fantasy series. Because they have where you can do the note cards, which the board behind me, if y'all are watching on YouTube, you see all these note cards up there on my board. So I can do that, but I can do it on my computer within the same document with the book itself and all of that. So
yeah, and it will automatically make an outline as long as you do your headers and everything right. It does so many wonderful things. Like, it sounds so wonderful. I just need to figure out how to use it.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
And I would love for you to teach me. So absolutely.
There you
yes,
go.
ma'am.
So you'll teach me Excel and I'll teach you Scrivener, and that's our swap.
Yes. Oh, I do have one more efficiency hack that is actually not on our list, but it does pertain to a Word document. So as I was writing my poetry book, I discovered the headers are so helpful.
Yes, they are.
In a Word document. So speaking of outline, that's kind of where it got me. In your Word document, you have a thing called a navigation plane that you can click on and view. And if you are using like header 1, that would be like your first Roman numeral. And then header 2 would be like if you had a subset of that Roman numeral, it would already be indented and everything. And then if you used header 3, that would be the other subset of that subset. So it actually does kind of give you an outline, and also it's hyperlinked as well. So if you're writing something and it's going to be a long piece, or if you need to skip to a particular chapter or something like that. So I had mine all divided into, there are like 5 sections of my poetry book, and then there are the poems underneath it. So I had all of those subsectioned out. I was able to use the navigation plane whenever I had a thought about how I needed to change something, and maybe I had already edited it or gotten past that part. Then I could just scooch back up on the navigation plane, click on that particular poem. It would take me directly to that. In the Word document, I could do that change real quick and then hit back where I was editing, like get back really quickly where I was editing. And so that would be something that I could fix super fast. Whereas, if I would have not done that, I would have had to scroll up 50 pages or something, try to figure out exactly where I was, try to remember what I was going to change, and then remember where I was whenever I had the thought that I needed to change something. So those headers are actually really, really helpful in the Word doc.
And they also help with the formatting part, because that's actually what they formatters use to get your table of contents that's hyperlinked and stuff with your ebooks. So when you have all of those things set, then that's how that is all done. And it's a hack for that as well. So
you just blew my mind. You just blew my mind with that. I had no idea. So if there are things that you do not want in your table of contents for your ebook, you can just take the header off.
Yes. So when things get formatted for an ebook, those headers are used intentionally.
Yes.
For a double purpose. So yes.
Very interesting. Thank you. See, this is how would I have known that or learned that? I wouldn't have even thought to look it up.
And and that's something that like I learned when I was going through my whole, I can learn to be a formatter thing. Yeah, that was fun. Anyway, but I didn't think to, share that with you. And so now I'm like, why didn't I tell her this a long time ago? So
no, because I had not written a book a long time ago, and now I have. But anyway, the more you know.
There you go.
All right, Joy, are we ready for a QWERTY challenge?
Yes, we are. So I think that this week's QWERTY challenge is going to be similar to the ones that we're doing with all of these hack episodes. Simply take one of these, figure out which one you think might work for you, might help you out, and give it a shot. See what it does for you. Think of things also that you have done that have kind of been efficiency hacks for your craft, and share those with somebody. Just like with the headers, I could have shared that with May a long time ago and it just didn't even dawn on me. So maybe something came to your mind and you have a good friend that you can share that with. So yeah, I think that those would be a couple of challenges for you guys this week.
Absolutely. And if we didn't hit your creative memory, absolutely. And if we didn't hit your creative medium in this episode, look at the different suggestions that we put here and see if there's a way that it can fit into your creative medium. And if it doesn't, then let us know and maybe we can brainstorm with you about some efficiency hacks for your craft. And if it does, that's awesome too. Share it with a friend.
Yeah. And let us know how things go this week.
Yes, yes.
So have a great week.
And go make something.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope this episode encouraged you. Like all creatives, we thrive on consumer recommendations. So, please consider leaving us a review and sharing our podcast with your creative friends.
If you'd like to continue this conversation, visit us on our website at QWERTYWritingLife.com or on Instagram at QWERTY Writing Life.